Marfoogle TV going live in 3, 2, 1. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. So we have wild statements by Zelensky. We have wild statements by the president. We have wild things happening. We have armed forces in Mexico. We're going to talk about it all today on Marfoogle TV. Russia and U.S. agree to work towards an ending of the Ukraine conflict in a remarkable diplomatic shift. Now, before you go, oh, great, peace, and they're going to, of course, carve up Ukraine, and everybody's going to be happy. This is without Zelensky and without Europe. Again, exactly what I thought was going to happen is happening right now. We are pulling back. We are essentially talking with Putin, and they are making it look like essentially they are not invited, right? Zelensky and Europe. Again, there's a lot in here, but again, there's a couple really key important parts I wanted to go over. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said his country would not accept any outcome from the talks since Kiev didn't take part. He postponed his own trip to the kingdom scheduled for Wednesday. European allies have also expressed concerns that they are being sidelined. They're basically saying that the president is talking without them and making deals, but they have nothing to do with it. In fact, it is implied, and even I believe in one Ukrainian media, they are essentially saying that Zelensky was saying that he basically wasn't invited, right? That he wasn't invited to the table. Well, we actually have proof that he was, and that, of course, it was public knowledge that he was invited to this whole thing. Of course, the president said that it showed little patience for Ukraine's objections to being excluded from the talks. He said repeatedly that Ukraine's leaders should never have allowed the conflict to begin, suggesting the country should have been willing to make concessions to Russia before the 2022 invasion. It says today, well, I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years ago, Trump said during a news conference at his Florida residence. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal, which is quite on par for Trump, right? Make a deal. We're going to talk about this and much, much more. We're going to show you in the next article where essentially they said exactly that. They were invited. So we'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, no talks with Russians planned in Munich. Ukraine denies participation in the U.S.-Russia meeting. So, again, it looks like there is a pullback from Europe and Ukraine. They're saying, hey, this is exactly why we're trying to send our troops, is because America is essentially trying to make deals without us, and we're not going to take any kind of part in them. Dex, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So on the first article, we talked about how they essentially said that they didn't take any part and they wouldn't accept any of the outcomes, right?
Exactly.
When we're the main ones supporting them, they may have no choice unless the rest of NATO jumps in and essentially provides their people and their infrastructure, right? Which pretty much all of it is.
Yeah, they're absolutely choosing not to go to these peace deals, and then they're complaining that they're not invited, that they're not part of it. So you can't do both, right? You either have to go, and then you can complain about the substance, but you can't not be there, choose not to be there, and then say, "Well, you did it without me." That's crazy. When you look at this, this is an older article. We actually covered this when it happened. This was when they had the meeting in Munich last week. They said, "Hey, we're having a meeting in Munich, and we're inviting." There's going to be Russian delegates there. The U.S. delegates were going to be there, and they were inviting the Ukraine delegates to participate, and they chose not to participate. And they even said, this is coming from our president. He said, not only we're going to have this meeting at Munich tomorrow, we're also going to have another one next week in Saudi Arabia, and they're invited there too. So how they can turn around and say, well, we're not there. They're doing it without us. Quit crying and go to the table. I mean, like, if you want peace, go to the table. If you don't, you obviously don't want peace. You don't want to negotiate this. It's clear proof, in my opinion, that what they want is to be warmongers, and they want to keep this war going.
And there's so many different warmongers that are on Capitol Hill that have been connected with all of the last admin, that it's like they're all screaming for this. But you look at those same people, they all have ties with the military-industrial complex. Almost all of them are on some sort of board or have at least 5 or 6 kind of unmentionable LLCs, right? It's like, this is, again, why D.C. is searching offshore accounts and Swiss bank accounts. There's a lot of money that's getting pulled up right now, and they're scared right now. At least that's what many people think. As far as this goes, they are trying to get this war started. And I said, no matter who the president was, that it is going to be a difficult task to have us not involved in it. But, of course, the president says that's exactly what he's trying to do. Even if we do pull out of it, those shadowy figures are going to try to get us pulled back in anyways. This is what I believe. I believe that Europe is going to go to war without us. They are going to send troops, which we've covered this week. You've got, of course, the UK and Sweden, and I guarantee you France and Poland are behind. I think that I think Macron is not trying to get too much headlines right now because he's in that whole tabloid scandal right now with his wife. I don't know if you guys know about that, but Candace is basically stating that there's crazy stuff going on in the Macron family. Again, I don't know if that is true. I've had my thoughts, of course. But as far as the stuff that's going on with that, you can go look that up for yourself. Maybe that's why, though, it's not the first country is France that is sending troops, right? Because Macron was one of the first countries and the president to say, hey, we might need to send our guys. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Ukraine is running out of people. They're running out of soldiers, at least young ones. So they will need soldiers if they're going to continue this going. Everybody thinks, oh, if we make this deal, it's going to end. Well, Europe and Ukraine are not part of these talks. It's kind of crazy considering we are the biggest funders of Ukraine, as at least the last admin was. And a lot of that money, the Patriot systems, all of the stuff that they've been using, all of their vehicles, their RPGs, their man-pad systems, it's all from us, right? Or most all of it. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, it's just continually going forward. And then, of course, the comments that are being said, they're essentially saying that Trump has given Putin carte blanche to attack London, Paris, and Brussels. A source close to the Kremlin has suggested that President Donald unprecedented concessions to Russia could potentially allow for aggressive actions towards major European cities such as Brussels, Paris, and even London. Now, remember, when I'm reading an article, that doesn't mean it's my personal opinion. This is someone else's. During recent peace negotiations between the U.S. and Russian leaders, it is alleged that T-Man's team brushed aside the prospect of Ukraine regaining control over its territories occupied by Russia, while Ukrainians and their allies are stunned by these perilous revelations. Russian media outlets have celebrated the news. Analysts have long speculated that the Don's return to the White House might signal a reduction in U.S. support for Ukraine. Nonetheless, the rapidity with which Trump seems to be reinforcing ties with Russia has taken many by surprise. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't think that he is trying to reinforce, he's not trying to be a friend with them. He is trying to make a deal. And that's what Trump has done for his entire life. If you go back as far as you can find him, he's trying to make a deal. Is that deal going to be a good one? I don't think any of us know what is exactly good right now. But I'm pretty sure that most of us don't want a massive World War III. Dex, go ahead.
I mean, just look at the headline. The headline is carte blanche. Trump has given Putin carte blanche. But yet when you read the actual details, it's like, well, it could potentially allow for aggressive actions. There is no he's given carte blanche. Carte blanche meaning giving him free reign to do what he wants. This is it. You can just see they're just oozing right now against him and in favor of this massive war with Russia. And there's another quote in here, or a mention in here that I thought was really interesting. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stoked the controversy by suggesting that the U.S. might overlook NATO's Article 5 if Europe were engaged militarily with Russia. So that's an interesting thing, because we've been wondering, like, what would happen if Article 5, if NATO, or if, say any of these European nations decide to go hot with Russia, is it going to drag us in? And technically it does. Article 5 provides that any NATO ally is a victim of an armed attack. Each and every other member of the alliance will consider this act of violence as an armed attack against all members and will take the actions it deemed necessary to assist the ally attacked. So, but the interesting thought is, what would we do? Would we actually just say, you know what, we're not doing it?
And as far as political scientist Sergei Mikheyev weighed in on the situation, he says, in this situation, we should make it clear for the Europeans. Now we can really strike Brussels, London, or Paris, because we can forget about Article 5. You can forget about the notions that American would step up in your behalf. Meanwhile, Russians are pushing their military to quickly seize more Ukrainian territory, with Kremlin analysts predicting that following Putin's talks with the president, Russia could potentially face no repercussions for any land it annexes. What's even crazier is I believe that there's probably a lot of people in the United States that are saying, okay, let them do it. It's not our business. At the same time, if there was some undertone of what the real plans are, I mean, Russia's connected with China. I do believe China's real plan is to be number one. I do believe China's number one plan is to somehow take the United States down. It hates us with a passion. Under its heavenly mandate, it believes in its core essence that it needs to be number one. Otherwise, it's not doing a good job. So I do think that we're kind of delaying things if we do put off this big thing now. But again, it looks like we're not even putting it off, at least for the world. For us, maybe for a minute. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and if you look at it from just say a GDP standpoint, because it's hard to look at it from a defense spending standpoint, because they all don't spend what they should because they want America to prop them up. But Germany being the number 3 country in the world on GDP, United Kingdom being number 6, France being number 7, Italy being number 8. Okay, all of those are part of the Europe, basically, and there's many more that are below the numbers I'm talking about that are part of Europe as well. But then you take little Russia. It's number 11. So you've got all of these big, massive countries from a GDP standpoint, from a power and strength standpoint, and they can't defend themselves against small little Russia. And when I say small little Russia, I'm talking from a financial standpoint. How can Russia, with such a small GDP, outperform them militarily? That should be a valid question to be asked. And it's not to say we shouldn't have an alliance with them, and it's not to say that we shouldn't support one another, but at the same time, like Germany is 3 times the size, or 2.5 times the size of Russia. Why don't they have a military and military spending that just completely crushes Russia alone, let alone mix in France, the UK, Italy?
Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but before Russia and China became the main kind of target, way back, Theresa May, in fact, Theresa May talked about essentially changing. If you remember back in 2016 and back before that, everything that we were talking about was around terrorism. And essentially back in way back when Theresa May was prime minister, she essentially said that, we're going to put all of our funds, instead of into finding the people in the Middle East, we're going to put our funds and our defensive funds against Russia and China. And back then, if you actually sat yourself back in 2015, 2016, 2017, it was like, what's going on? And, is that going to be the new thing? I said right there, I said, follow the money. You can see that they're all going to direct it. You could see today, back then when I said that this was coming, people said, oh, yeah, you've been saying that for years. It takes years to put together a World War III. If you look at World War II was a culmination of all of the things that happened since World War I. It was almost a continuation. And you could see it took years and years and years for all of it to line up. It is now lined up. With this, it's like you could see way back, and I could see it. It was obvious, and I'm an idiot. It was very, very clear that the Russia and China were going to become our massive targets and the adversaries of the world. And now, fast forward, we have all of these things going on. It was visible way back when. I mean, you could see it all the way back to 2016, 2015, 2017. It was all there. And all those people that said, oh, yeah, we've been saying a war's coming for years. Now look, even though we are trying to pull ourselves out, they are still continually trying to get this thing going. I think that there's been events that have paused this or delayed it, but I don't think it can be delayed forever. Do you? Let me know in the comments down below. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Harvest Right if you haven't already. This is one of the best systems to actually freeze dry your own food. Freeze drying, in turn, can preserve food, some of the best preservation of food you can get for up to 25 years. You can actually get yourself your own machine. It's very easy to use. These are incredibly well made. They were even scalped during CV. When 2019 hit, everybody wanted one of these, and you couldn't get your hands on them. People were charging twice as much. It was insane. Again, but now you have, of course, a big sale during February, and you can do it yourself. It is definitely the cheaper option, even though these are not exactly a $100 toaster or a $15 toaster. These are an expensive utility. Once you have 2, 3, 4 people that you need to get 90 days of food or 6 months of food, if that's your plan, this is going to be the cheaper route, much cheaper. They say that you can save 75% by doing your own freeze-dried food. If you think about going into Walmart and seeing the $15 single meals by, say, something like Mountain House, yeah, it's definitely a way better deal. And if you have multiple people in your family, then this is a way better deal. Now, again, it is a hobby. People love it. People don't look at it as work. People look at this as a hobby. Go and check out on YouTube some of the people that do this. There's all sorts of recipes. You can, of course, freeze dry almost anything, and you can preserve almost anything. So if you've got a whole garden of stuff that ends up going to waste because you don't have people to eat it, then make sure to go over and check this out. You could be preserving it and saving it for later. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze, and I would highly recommend doing it now. February is probably going to be the best sale up until November when we've got Black Friday. So again, jump in, marfooglenews.com/freeze. You'll not only help us out, you'll get a big discount at the same time as helping independent media. We are, behind 40,000 pages of the BBCs and CNNs and Fox Newses. So we appreciate you sharing us out more than anything. But if you want to support us in a different way and get yourself prepped, this is the way. All right, and then let's go over U.S. Special Forces landing in Mexico to train Marine infantry. Dex, let's talk about this.
Wow. So look, the Mexican Senate Commission has approved the entry. They're going to be there from the 17th through the 30th of March. This is the U.S. Army Special 7th Forces Group Airborne. The Americans will come fully armed as part of a mission. So fully armed. They're not just coming in to train, but they're coming in fully armed to train. They're going to be training the Mexican Navy Infanteria de Marina, the Marine Infantry, basically. I don't know why I have to try to say it in Spanish, on conventional and non-conventional types of combat. This is obviously in preparation for stuff with the cartels, would be my assumption. And I think that's also been discussed in great detail. But look, we've talked about this escalation, and we'll continue to talk about it in the show, about what's going on with the cartels. They've been named, terror groups now. That they are labeled that. So that will escalate. And if I even believe that if Mexico can't deal with it themselves, that you probably are going to see the U.S. getting involved. And we'll talk more about that later in the show, too.
And, of course, they will, because Mexico is corrupt as hell. Of course, a lot of their police and a lot of their military are on the payroll. We've known this for a very long time. As far as there's a common thought and a back and forth debate, like whether the cartels are the big bad wolf, I don't think so, but I do believe that they are not a threat to be messed with. If you haven't actually been exposed to anybody that is cartel related, through my life, I've met a couple people that have had either brothers or cousins or friends that were part of this thing, and it was crazy. These guys are no joke. Rolled around in bulletproof cars and things in the United States. These guys had funds, they had money, they had weapons, they had everything. And now they're saying that they have U.S. weapons, and a lot are claiming, in fact, Tucker claimed that they have giant chunks sold to them by Mr. Zelensky. This is a claim, weapons. So we don't know what the truth is, but we can certainly prepare for either likelihood, right? And then Tom Homan to Newsmax, working on striking cartels in Mexico. So as Dex mentioned, President Don declared Mexican drug cartels a foreign organization on his first day in office. And now Border Czar Tom Homan says that there are active discussions about U.S. military strikes on terror targets in Mexico. This is first day, January 1st. We said this, go back to the January 1st show. This opens up for airstrikes in Mexico. Today, February 18th, it says military strikes on T targets in Mexico. That's something we're working on now. There it is in writing, exactly what we all believed was going to happen. It said that's something we're working on right now. Homan told Monday night's Finnerty on Newsmax, suggesting it is talk on the table and not actively a military strike plan in the works. While striking a target in Mexico will also require work with the Mexican government and its military, Homan suggested that there might be an override over fair warning if American Border Patrol agents are under an active threat. Says, quote, but I can tell you President Trump has made Mexico cartels who put against Border Patrol agents and our military. If they harm Border Patrol agents or the military, President will wipe them off the face of the earth in Homan style. He probably said, well, wipe them off the face of the earth. Thus far, Trump is not likely to overstep with military action, barring an imminent threat, because relations are in a good spot, according to Homan. I think that the president has them where he wants them. Now they've put military on their own northern border and our southern border. They are now participating and beginning to participate in Remain in Mexico. The president is demanding they take action, and we're monitoring them. The president, he's a game changer. The president has already got Mexico where he wants them, and he's going to force more out of them in the near future. So you've got it right there, that it's in the works. It's pretty easy to see when you label an organization like that a terrorist faction, then yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. We've already had surveillance planes flying over Mexico, and even cartels have apparently been commenting on the back channels that they've seen these things flying over. So you're talking about dark web chats and things saying they've seen these things. And they are now working up new ways to try to hide some of their places, including, biological covers, grass covers and things like that over some of their buildings to try to hide from these surveillance planes. I'm sure they already have a lot of their stuff hidden anyways, but hidden from satellites. And then, Dex, let's go over CIA expands secret drone flights over Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, look, secret drone strikes, or not strikes, drone flights. You've got Homan saying we can do strikes. We've got special forces in there doing training. We've been flying non-secret flights, as we've covered here, and we even had an aircraft carrier off the coast there. So, but this is a covert program. It actually started in the past, and it's stepped up now at a greater level. And they are looking for They say they're looking for the location of these labs, but it is a secret thing. This is the United States has stepped up a secret drone flight over Mexico to hunt for the labs, part of the Trump administration's more aggressive campaign against the cartels. So the covert drone program, which has not been previously disclosed, began in the prior administration, according to U.S. officials and others familiar with the program. But President Trump and his CIA Director John Ratcliffe have repeatedly promised more intense actions against the cartels. So they are increasing these secret drone flights, and it was a sort of a quick initial step to take. So they have not been authorized to take any lethal action with these drones. These are the same drones that they can, take out one person or driving in a truck if they want to do that. You've seen it in the movies, and we've seen it reported in big events in the Middle East typically. But that doesn't mean it wouldn't happen should things go south, especially as we just read Homan talking about.
And they clarified that these drones are specifically adept at finding these labs because the labs that create the Feni essentially emit a certain toxin into the air, different chemicals. So they're able to actually detect them, find them, and later probably take them out. I'm assuming that right now they're going to try to work with the Mexican government, but I would assume that the cartel has sources in the government. So once we go, hey, Mexican government, here's a location of a lab, that they go, hey, cartel, move your lab. They know about this one. But again, that's just my best guess. It's kind of funny saying that, CIA expands secret drone flights, CIA being super connected in the past to the cartels, in even some cases funding them to take out other cartels. But who knows? Is today's CIA different? Is Doge going to tear it down? Has Doge gone through CIA yet? I don't think so. That would be an interesting one. How far would you get? It's like, redacted. And then top Iranian general warns Tehran will strike Israel again at appropriate time. So some believe it's just a matter of time before Iran does another massive strike on Israel. If so, this would definitely escalate things and start things back up. And I think that it is very possible. I believe that this is going to happen because this is the Middle East. This is Iran versus Israel. They are never going to be friends. Ever, ever, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Dex, do you want to talk about the True Promise 3?
Yeah, isn't it their turn? Like, we've been waiting for a long time on this one because I think they owed one. It was on the tit for tat. They were supposed to retaliate, and they never have. So I guess that's what the name, the True Promise 3, is, because it's the True Promise. They're going to eventually do it. We just don't know when. But the True Promise 3 will be carried out in an appropriate time, the deputy said. So this is coming from a senior IRGC general. He was warning on Monday that they would carry out this third wave of missile strikes against Israel, and they're going to do it at an appropriate time. So we don't obviously know when. I think they've had their missile capabilities were weren't completely decimated, but I think they were hampered very significantly in the last strike from Israel, including their nuclear capabilities. They went after a little bit of that. So maybe that has slowed them down. Maybe they've got to ramp up some production. I think they're probably trying to spend heavily while they still have money before this administration completely chokes them off, which has been underway since he got into office with the sanctions against their oil.
So, again, we will follow what ends up happening with it. Now, if you haven't checked out Grid Down, I highly recommend it. As far as a solar generator, I would highly recommend the high capacity 6,000 peak watt, 3,000 continuous bug out. Again, this is an awesome unit. If you haven't seen these yet, these are lithium iron phosphate, so they, again, can be much lighter at the same time as have a whole lot more there as far as watt hours. Just the main bug out itself has 1.61 kilowatt hours. Most people will end up getting that. But again, if you do get one of the extension, the XPs, that has an additional watt hours, again, that equals up to over 4,000, almost 4,300 kilowatt hours. Now, if you don't know about solar generators at all, you can charge these from the wall. In fact, the bug out can be charged in as little as 2.3 hours, which is insane, from your wall. Well, we do have power. Then you can take it with you. You can power stuff. You can go camping with it, take it to your cabin, or have it as a permanent statement in your cabin. But, of course, you can also charge it from the sun. You can have solar panels. Again, you can get solar panels from almost anywhere. I'd highly recommend getting theirs or the ones that match. But again, those you put out, and then you're gaining free energy, free power from the sun. Again, go over to marfooglenews.com/bugout and make sure to use the code MARF. Not only are you going to get a discount, but you are also going to help our channel out at the same time. The great thing, too, it has the actual plug put right into the back. It is literally built in, so you will never lose an adapter or anything like that. I've had that issue with some other units. Again, this also has a 30 amp plug right in the back, so if you did want to plug in your RV or motorhome, that is right there. So it is an awesome unit. And again, they also have the power walls. They're called the readouts. These things are for big houses. I mean, you could literally outfit a mansion with these things if you wanted to. There's a couple platforms. The best part, though, is everything here is EMP shield protected. Not only are these made to where there's no back doors in them, but you are also going to have EMP shield protection from a Carrington level event or from an adversary trying to hit us with an EMP. Not only that, again, there's, of course, if you do get one of those bug out XPs, then you will actually get, you'll qualify for that 30% tax rebate. So again, go check it out, marfooglenews.com/bugout. And I don't assume that rebate's going to be around forever. So make sure to go check that out. And then, chance of city killer asteroid 2024 YR4 smashing into Earth now rises yet again to 3.1%. If you have followed my show for a very long time, you might be on my same page. Because I've pointed out since Sunspot, if you were following me during Sunspot Observatory, I thought back then something weird is happening. Like they've spotted something and they're not telling us. Now some would say, oh, well, they just spotted it in 2024. Whoever spotted it in 2024, that doesn't mean that the government didn't spot it before then. The Sunspot Observatory, of course, that was crazy. I talk about it on the video over on news. That was very strange. And I thought, man, that's weird. Back then, they said even that 6 other sun observatories were shut down at the same time, and almost all of them were connected to the U.S. They shut down the post office in that neighborhood. They shut down everything for 11 days. They evacuated homes. They interviewed everybody. They had FBI and other agencies there. It was very spooky, almost like they were trying to contain. It looked more like a containment more than an arrest. So with that being said, there's been a lot of other things. Right around the same time as that, you had the beginning of Space Force. You had, of course, the very birth idea of DART. And now in 2022, they've actually had the first testing of. And as of the other day, they, of course, came out and said on December 30th, it was at 0.96. Then it went up to, then it went to 1.3. Then it went to 1.6. Then it went to, of course, 1.9, 2.3, 2.6, and this was as of earlier today. I posted it was at 2.6. Now they have now come out and said that it's up to a 3.1% chance to hit Earth. That doesn't sound like much, and you think, oh no, 96% that it won't. But that's actually a 1 in 32 chance. You've probably played scratch tickets with less of odds than that. So 1 in 32 is down. And just to give you an idea, I'll show you again what I showed you over on news. This tablet that shows how much those little 0.5%, go up. So let's go over to my Twitter here. You can follow me at Marfoogle. See this? So impact probability, December 30th, 1 in 1,000 was when it was at 0.096. 1 in 190 at 0.52. 1.2 was at 1 in 83. 1.9 was 1 in 53 chance. 2.3 was 1 in 43. 2.6% chance was 1 in 38. And now it went up 0.5 to 3.1, and now it is 1 in 32. And this has changed and continually gone up as if they're just continually tracking and going, no, wait, nope, closer, closer, closer. Is it going to continue on this pattern? And are they only saying it like this and putting it a little percent up at a time to make sure that nobody panics? This is a city killer. It is almost the exact same size as what they talked about and showed in Greenland. In Greenland, it shows it wiping out Tampa all the way from Tampa to Orlando. And in that movie, they tried to do an accurate job of showing what essentially a 300-foot asteroid would do. They now say it's a 177-foot asteroid, but they also put an asterisk there saying it actually could be bigger. That they are going to use an emergency use of the James Webb Telescope. They actually were granted an emergency use to use the James Webb Telescope and to point it at it and to essentially check out how big this thing is. Same day that it came out with a 2.3% chance, all of a sudden China announces that they are opening and creating one of the world's largest planetary defense systems. Sounds kind of crazy. We already have a planetary defense organization. Now everybody does. So something does not sit right with this, and it might explain some of the land grabs. It might explain why we want Greenland so bad. It might explain Space Force. It might explain the trips to Mars. Think about that as well. When was the first kind of announcement of Elon trying to come up with ideas of getting 1 million people to Mars? And he keeps saying, I want to point out, Elon has pointed this out so many freaking times. It's creepy. This is the guy that has all of the government contracts that, of course, has popped out many times with these weird hints. Elon's asteroid meme. Let's go here. Let's go to DuckDuckGo. Boom. Show you this here. And this is just one of many. There are so many more different weird little things that just, it's just creepy, to say the least. Let's see here. See if I can find the exact one. Oh, yep. Actually, he has posted this one as well. Oh God, the economy. How is this going to affect? How is this going to affect my stocks? Essentially showing the dinosaur. This says it's replying, but he actually retweeted that. And then he retweeted this other one that was very, very creepy. Let me see if it pops up down here. It was of a moon man standing on the moon watching the Earth. And then it shows an asteroid puncturing through the Earth, comically through it. And he says, oh, how is this going to deal, how is this going to be for inflation or something like that? And that same meme was actually just used in Don't Look Up in the very first 3 seconds of the movie. Now, some people would say, oh, it's just a meme. It doesn't mean anything. He has quoted, he said that the Mars mission is to save civilization, that it's the only way that civilization will survive. I mean, he's just made so many kind of references to this. even some of his Doge references showing essentially some sort of tsunami hitting, right? Some sort of huge shock wave from an asteroid. It's very, very creepy stuff. And again, people don't have to believe it. But I've been looking at this stuff for years, and I'm thinking, what the hell is actually going on? It's again something that I have thought for years, and I'm sticking to it. And then just watch. If it's a hoax in 2027 and they say, oh, it's hitting and we've all got to unite, that very well could be possible. But the same would be true if it's a hoax, or if it's true, the seeds were there years and years before. And that's why their seeds are implanted, right? Would they tell us if something like this was going to happen? Absolutely not. They're not going to tell us if there's a city killer on its way. And by the way, the city killer is not the end of the world. But what if there are ones right behind it that are? What if we are going through a rumor that's gone around for years, since 2015 or 2016, that there's some sort of debris field that we're going to go through, and that we are going to be hit by this, massive debris field, that our planet's going to go through it. For some of you, I know that you're absolutely on the opposite page because you don't believe in any of this. But again, if you say, oh, well, NASA always lies, well, lying for 8 years and hiding something for 8 years would match that as well. So, Dex, go ahead.
I had a thought about the Iron Dome, if that could be used for smaller asteroid mitigation. And then the other thing I was just researching is the fact that these smaller asteroids, while still larger asteroids, these aren't like Earth killer asteroids, but the smaller ones can actually, because when they enter, I think Wages was telling me this, that when they enter, a lot of times they'll enter and create the equivalent of a nuclear blast, a smaller one or even a larger one, depending on the size, in the atmosphere, because it's coming into the Earth. So it's above, but then it hits everybody below, which is why it's such a wide base that can be taken out from it. It also, that plasma that's generated as it hits the
EMP.
atmosphere can create an EMP. Now, it is not the same as a high altitude EMP, because that's much higher. So a high altitude EMP would be very widespread, like across all of the US, is about the width of a single one detonated in the center. But it can create an EMP at the location in a small area, not very small, but say statewide or larger than a citywide area.
And that again, what if that was why President Trump signed the EMP executive order, right? This was back in 2018. Around the same period of time, you had, of course, the brand new Space Force. You had all of these other kind of actions that were taken. Now, we were told, now, of course, a lot has come out. They say that it is because they found back doors in some of the transformers and things. And they said, hey, we're at risk. Like, they might be trying to knock down our grid. So is this for China and Russia, or is this for, something like a 2024 YR4 or whatever it's called? It's very odd. It seems like he goes into a meeting, he instantly takes action. It's almost a weakness, because you can kind of see what happened right before and you go, oh, and then he took this action. Well, what is he responding to? All of this stuff is classified, but then you look at the reaction and you can almost see what it's reacting to. Is it something like that? Just a side theory. But I definitely think that if there was an asteroid coming, if some college found it, or if some amateur found it, that person would immediately be silenced, and that they would take it upon themselves to make sure that was not talked about. We all think that some amateur is going to find it, or a college is going to spot it, and they're going to put it right into the newspapers. Do you think that that's going to happen? I don't. If there was an asteroid or even a planet killer headed our way, I don't think that they would tell us. I think they would hide it. I think they would go to the observatory. I think they would shut it down. I think they would shut down the local post office even, to make sure that they didn't send any discs out. Back then, of course, now it may be now that we don't burn too many discs, but back in 2017 we did. I don't know. I think something very, 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 very odd is going on here. Also, around that same time, you all of a sudden had all of these weird space missions. Even Israel sent something to the moon. Also, just want to point out, the last thing on this is they are now saying that there is a small percentage chance that it might hit the moon. Do you remember the moon video? The one that went viral all over YouTube? Everybody was talking about the military guy that went viral in the first 30 minutes. He had like 400,000 people watching live. And then he, again, allegedly got taken out, or there was banging on the door, and then they took the military guy out of the room. And what the guy was saying before he got taken out was, hey, there's an asteroid coming. It's not going to hit Earth. It's going to hit our moon. And if it takes down our moon, it takes us out. If the moon gets taken out, we get taken out. It essentially would throw the Earth off kilter, and it would screw up everything. We would have floods all over the world, the tidal waves, all sorts of things, right? Now they're saying that this huge, massive asteroid, which, again, asterisk, they don't know how truly big it is. They've given an estimated guess, could hit the moon around 2032, which I never saw that video. Many people didn't, but a lot of people did, or at least they say they did. Go back to that. I don't know when that was, around the same time, 2017, 2018, maybe 2019. That's when it went all viral. And even Drama Alert covered it. Drama Alert, which does, YouTube drama. He covered it because everybody on YouTube was talking about it. And by the way, that was also aligned with the first YouTube shortage or outage. Again, that's an easier way to find it. The first big YouTube outage, the whole thing went down and across many servers across the world. And people said, how would it go down across the world? Well, what's funny is if you fast forward when the New Zealand event happened with the church thing, they essentially did the same thing, but they did it differently that time. They wiped a certain video off the internet. Back then, people said that it might have been out, that the YouTube went out because they were trying to wipe a certain video from being uploaded and taking an upload down. So this video of this guy that was talking, that was the claim at least, right? So if that was real, that's pretty creepy. And, of course, it went down. And then when YouTube came back, all of the people that saw it said that that video was gone, that nobody had that video, that any channel that had the video, that recasted that video was deleted and permanently banned. So I don't know what the heck's going on there, but seems to me like it would explain some of the things, and it would be more of a logical explanation than some of the explanations that we've gotten. All the land grabs that are happening, everything that's happening, I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure that a good chunk of you are going to be on the complete opposite spectrum of this, but I don't care. It's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Dex, again, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Great job, brother. Much love.
And thank you, and thank you to Rochelle Cooley, Carlton Sutton. Thank you. I appreciate the support today. We stand alone, let no man deceive you, hold fast. And then one thing I love about us is there's no race, no color, just Foogle fam. Love you all. Rochelle Cooley, thank you, and thank you for being the top supporter tonight. Thank you, Stephen McMahon, before he went to work, said heading off to work, hopefully to catch you by tablet. Thank you for the support over on Marfoogle News. Thank you, guys, and thank you to the new members, new subscribers. Make it out with chaos. Thank you for being a member for 20 months. That's giant. Thank you, and thank you. Says, love you guys, Adam, Dex, Mods, and fam. You guys, lovely night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro, it's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. If you're in the chat, you'll be ported over to Marfoogle Jams. If you are, of course, watching the replay, all you have to do is go to marfooglenews.com or click in the corner.